Hey, all right. I know it's a bit early, but I had to go to work earlier, so so I figured just like do this now.
Yep. Yep. I'm still just kind of waking up myself, pretty much. I mean, I've already been at work, but there's yeah, I'm just shaving myself down slowly but surely. Like hair, out the face. Next, the sideburns are gonna go. I'm pretty excited.
Oh, well, that's good. I mean, yeah. I mean, listen, like moving on up. So, so I guess it's appropriate. But yeah, okay, good. Let's see here with me. Yeah, I mean, I've been like watching a whole bunch of Big Brother, just like been watching past seasons.
Big brother?
Um, yeah, I'm like so obsessed. Like, I only just got into like the past like 3 years or so, but like I stopped watching it because it got boring. But now I'm into it again. It's like a sucker for it. I want to go on it honestly. Like, I kind of wanted to go on just to see how I would do.
I would love to go on. Big Brother has been as like I told you, it's been my life for the past 10 years. So I
Really?
feel like I feel like I would get everybody to hate me, but then I'd be the last person to stand. So I already know exactly how I play the thing.
The backstabbing game. Yeah.
Well, no, no, no. I would have people stab me in the back, but then like other people would feel bad about it. So I'd be playing the long con. In the beginning, everybody would be against me, but at the end, the pity game will be strong.
Interesting. Okay. The only okay, I can see that kind of working out because yeah, like you said, like the at the end it's so funny. Like literally, like the jury votes like based on just who they like more, who they feel like deserves it more. But then it's like how you get there. Like they just totally forget. Like, hey, you backstabbed too. Like you lied too, and they just like, well, whatever. I'm gonna vote completely opposite of how you're supposed to play this game. It is that like balance that like that's why the people that are like in the middle, so to speak, always win typically. But oh my god, we should go on together. Well, they probably won't. Like, well, who knows? I mean, be awesome. And they have no idea that we know each other. It's like, oh, okay, love it.
Hey,
Anyway,
difference. I mean, we should just have a Big Brother Yang Gang edition
oh
where we
my
get,
god,
we get 20 strangers from the Yang Gang all living in the same house.
oh
And
my
we're
god.
all working on trying to get Yang elected as president. And
Like, every
but then
competition would be like gang related. That'd be so funny. Incorporate the memes and stuff.
right. Oh my God! Like I'm looking at myself right now. There's so many bags under my eyes. I need sleep.
Oh, how much sleep did you get this time? Like,
I don't know. Like last night, I just started working more on this tour idea, and even by the time I got to bed,
mm,
my brain was still just running and running and running, and I had just come from practice as well, so I was all kinds of up. I probably just needed to like go to the bar or something, get a couple drinks in me, and then go
yeah,
home. I don't really know what I needed to go to sleep last night because it just wasn't happening. And I think like by the time I fell asleep, it was probably like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
yeah,
But then I was still tossing and turning and waking up. And then I remember like waking up at like 5. And then I remember waking up at like 6:30. And then I remember waking up at 7 going, oh my God, I'm late for work.
oh no, yeah, man, I've been there. I'm
So
terrible at waking up. Like, I just rolled out too. I was like, I keep waking up, but like I always go back to sleep. I'm okay, my alarm didn't ring yet, did it? And then I freak out, like, wait, did my alarm not ring? Because I like it's the whole thing.
but so a little while ago, I'm gonna keep bringing this guy up because he is my absolute, hero and the whole reason why I'm doing anything. But a little
Yeah.
while ago, Elon Musk caught some flack about how many hours his employees were working, and it was like something like 50, sometimes like 80 hours a week, like double weeks basically. And And Elon himself has come out. He's like, yeah, I've worked 80, I've worked 100 hours a week before. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But because, you know, sometimes you just wake up and you start working, and then you get to work and you're working, you come home and you're working, and then you see him tweeting like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh.
But yeah, but then like a study came out, and somebody like wrote a piece about like, are Elon Musk's employees actually, you know, mad at him for it? And pretty much what happened was like, no, his employees are all doing it not, you know, pretty much voluntarily. Pretty, like, they know what they're signing up for. And then the other part of it was they said, you know, we're not going to get to Mars on a 40-hour a week schedule, you know. So, and it's like the same with so it's the same thing with this, whether it's music or Yang or both. I mean, now that you think, like, if I'm going to do both, like, we're not going to elect the president. Like, if the volunteers were only volunteering 2 hours a day, we wouldn't do anything, right? But if the volunteers are at it, you know, 10 hours a day,
Yeah.
like, then great. Like, then we're definitely getting somebody elected. And I know, like, not everybody has that time. That's why, like, the strength in numbers. But some people are going to have to sit there and put in their overtime and put in the legwork. And I mean, if it's worth it, it's worth it. And at this point, I don't even see it as work. Before, I would wake up and think like, oh no, I'm so tired. Work is killing me. Now I'm waking up and I'm like, oh, I got to get to work. And then I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, gosh, I look tired.
No.
I'm still going to work.
Yeah, and like work-life balance just depends on the person. Like, I don't think that there's one set of like, oh, if you're working 40 hours and like you're good. Like, you can still be doing that and hate your life. Like, it just depends on what you're doing. And like you said, like, the people, I assume that the people that are working for Elon Musk, they probably find like a good sense of like purpose in what they're doing. Like, oh, we're actually at least trying to make a difference in the world. So that's why they are willing to do it voluntarily, you know, hopefully. Like, hopefully they are telling the truth. But yeah, I believe it. Yeah. And even Gary Vee, like, he'll say this too, like, he works all the time. Like, the only time he doesn't work is like on the weekends. And he'll take like 6 weeks like vacation with his family just to like, you know, get all that family time in. But mostly he's just working, and he's fine with it. His wife is fine with it too, because they star. So it just depends. I mean, it's people like why are people judging so hard? You know.
You know why they're judging so hard is because they like the status quo and they don't want things to change. People are afraid of change. You know, and some people are like, yeah, let's like me. I saw in 2007 that, you know, Elon Musk is trying to get the Tesla going. Elon Musk is trying to get the SpaceX going. And like, we just came out with smartphones and people weren't really understanding what that meant yet. I saw it. I was like, holy crap. Like, we pretty much just got like Star Trek technology. And now we're going to use this Star Trek technology to build the Star Trek world. And it's like Yang said, it's either going to be Mad Max or Star Trek. Yeah. But then the other thing is, it's because people are afraid to value the work that other people do. They think that their work is important and ours isn't. And, you know, that's something that Yang keeps saying. You know, we are working hard. And if you give us $1,000 a month, we're not going to stop working. We're only going to work harder. Because, I mean, look at us. You know, I don't necessarily value the traditional job. I think the traditional job takes people, well, first, it takes mothers and fathers away from their children.
Yeah.
You know, it takes families away from each other because they have to move. It limits the amount of time we can actually interact with each other socially. And it limits the amount of time that we have to think critically about our situation in the world. Like, we are not the same human beings that we were in the 1800s or the 1900s. You know, like, we're different. We're thinking smarter. We're being a little more critical about the way we go about things. And so, yeah, our work is evolving, but we're not getting paid for that work. You know, every time I go to clean up my neighborhood, you know, pick up the trash or anything like that, I'm not getting paid for that. But, you know, to say that that's not valuable work, well, you know, that's just plain rude and wrong.
Yeah, it is super valuable, and that's a perfect way of saying it. Like, I mean, especially, man, I was watching a video of this guy on YouTube, him talking about artists and why, or just in general, why like we, especially in the Western culture. I mean, he lives in like in Prague, but he came from LA. And he said that, yeah, like we don't have like your quote unquote heroes, like, you know, pop culture heroes, or like, you know, anybody. We just like we're like so obsessed with like the superheroes and like the Marvels and the DC people. But why is that? And partially it's because like our society has like turned into like anytime somebody is successful, we like to bring them down because, you know, we feel like, oh, it's like the scarcity mindset. He didn't say that, but it's like the scarcity mindset. It's like, oh, if they're doing good, like that means I'm not doing good. So especially when it comes to like musicians, like people, it's hard for people to, you know, have, it's hard for us to have like a Prince or Michael Jackson, you know, because we're like, oh, that person must be fucked up, or oh, like let's try to cancel them, like, you know, I'm sure that you know, it's like, is that like, you know, just like crab in like a barrel mentality that like we're all just trying to get up and we keep pulling each other down in the meanwhile, so none of us can actually escape, you know, and that of course that's gonna like spread in like just average everyday people, like, you know, it's just.
Oh yeah, and I mean, you think about like by the way, what's up, Marc? I see you over there.
Oh, he's here. Oh yeah, he is here.
Did someone say scarcity mindset?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're talking about jobs, and really start on people criticizing Elon Musk and his employees and stuff.
Yeah, and then so like the anarchist community, they're not actually anarchists. They're just people that are sick of what's going on. Or the DIY community and the punk scene. You know, like you think like what, and I'm gonna give a shout out to Skatopia, which goes on in Ohio. I mean, it's like one of the they call it 88 acres of anarchy, and it's one of the most freeing experiences you can possibly have. So if you guys are watching this, like look up Skatopia, and it's a punk fest, so definitely like know what to expect. It is anarchy, but it's freeing, it's fun. Like people burn cars, and it's like Burning Man, but we're burning whatever we can find. Bottle rocket fights. Somebody's arm got blown off one year. So it's not for the faint of heart. But the thing is, like those people get criticized a lot. But what are those people doing? They're trying their hardest and they get together and have like volunteer days where they just like build giant skate parks and skate ramps and stuff like that. And they work together to build a community that works for them, that doesn't marginalize them. And there's a lot of work to be done there. I mean, you think of all these DIY cultures now, and what would it mean for them to get $1,000 a month? Because right now, like, yeah, people, I get it. Like people kind of look at the punk scene, the anarchist scene, and they're like, oh, what are they doing here? Those weirdos, I hate them. They're so anti-America, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so give them $1,000 a month and you pretty much shut them up. They will go and form their own communities and they'll buy their own properties and you will never see them again. Because I guarantee you, they don't want to see you either. they feel the same way. And I mean, I'm not saying that polarization like that is good, but I'm also saying that maybe living on top of each other when we're in the scarcity mindset is not good. But once we all experience that little bit of liberation, once we all experience that little bit of freedom to be who we are with the people that we love and the people that are like us, then we can go and start having the conversations with the people that aren't like us and start building a new society that welcomes everyone, not just those that are contributing in some kind of traditional sense of the word, where contribution has something to do with religious affiliation and, you know, how many hours a week you're working for someone else so they can sign your paycheck.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, like the freedom dividend, you know, I love how you're so into like these like little niche like communities and stuff that I've never heard of, because it will, like, right now I think You're right. Like it would probably like they can do their own thing, and it would give them more of a choice. Okay, whether they would like to like leave and go somewhere else and do whatever they want, but like it at least like nobody. The my thing is like it will like decrease like the level of anxiety and stress, and then that will help everybody. So even if they do that, like the people that are already there, like, okay, like that's fine. Or maybe even sometimes they'd be like, well, no, guys, you guys can stay now. Like, I'm not like, now that again, like we have an abundance of, resources and money, then I guess I like you guys. Like, like I guess you guys are okay. Or some people may be just like curious, like, okay, what do you guys do? We'll have more time to just think about, other things, think about ourselves, just kind of like calm down.
Climate change. We'll have more time to think about climate change.
Yeah, is that? Oh my God, for sure. I mean,
seriously, like there's so many issues that we as a collective we just neglect right now, and it's just like, I mean, it's like Yang says, well, you try talking to someone that's living paycheck to paycheck about like saving the penguins, and their first response is going to be like, oh well, the fucking penguins, they can wait.
it's true.
Yeah, like my kids aren't eating right. I have to feed my kids McDonald's every day.
Yeah.
And even though like in the end you pretty much end up paying more for McDonald's every day. Like if you were to buy like a bag of rice, some soy sauce, and then like $15 of vegetables a week, you can feed your kids and they will love that stuff. Like that's how I grew up on buckwheat, which I don't even know if you guys know what buckwheat is, but I will get you hip on buckwheat. Buckwheat is what Eastern Europeans grew, and that's why the potato famine wasn't a problem with us, because we just grew buckwheat. And the amazing thing about buckwheat is it's really high in protein, really high in iron. It's very, very filling, so you can have like like a rice-sized portion, and you'll be good for half the day. It's known as one of those like power foods, and it has the roots are a really good fertilizer, so you can actually grow buckwheat, and then right as it starts to come up of the ground and starts to root, you can actually just turn that crop over. It's a turnover crop, mulch the roots, and then grow something else on top, and it'll give you so much nutrient to the soil. And buckwheat also has the property of taking radiation out of the soil. So if your soil is irradiated, grow some buckwheat, like a couple of crops, and it'll actually help soak that up better than most other crops. So like, and like, I don't know if you guys have even heard of it, but most people I talk to, they're like, what the hell is buckwheat? And I'm like, it's what poor people eat when we don't have food, and that's how we survive. But right now we're like in the mindset of commercialism, and it's like, hey, we have the dollar menu. Doesn't that sound great? It's only $1. But then when you add tax and add fries and maybe you want a Happy Meal, it becomes like a $15. For two people, it's like $15 to eat at McDonald's if you really want to fill up.
At least, yeah.
Yeah. So how much money? Like I can spend $20 a week and feed myself for the week. So that means for family, I can spend about $80 a week, and I can probably eat really good for that entire week, feeding a family of 4. But we aren't advertised that. We're not giving the adverts. Nobody's
we're not taught.
Nobody's like, go buy rice.
School system either. Like we're not just like financial literacy, nutritional literacy. I mean, it's either that's the most boring class, and you're like, you're in like 9th grade, 10th grade health class, like learning about like all these balances and stuff and what you should be doing. But they don't give you like the how and what Sergey is talking about here. It's like, well, listen, buckwheat's the answer, but like, you get what I mean? And like, that's the thing too, is like, there's so much like commercialism and stuff just shoved in your face from such an early age. Like, one of my buddies, like, he drinks like, soda all the time as if it's water, and he just like cannot get off of it. And I mean, I've been there before, like when I was in like, early high school, like I was just like that, but it's like, that's so common. Because oh my God, it's only $1 for like a big, 32 ounce, like, McDonald's Coke, like count me in. And you just keep just shoveling all this stuff into your system. It burns you out. You want to eat more. And it just like, there's no financial literacy and as relative to like your health, especially when you need to learn that stuff before you go into the real world.
Well,
Yeah.
you brought up buying that like $1.50 Coke or that $2 giant Coke or whatever. And what about like the poor shaming that we have? Like, what about every time you come to you go to McDonald's, and how many times have you like thought about, oh, I'm gonna get a cup of water, and then you're like, oh, but then they're gonna think I'm like, you know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about. Like people are just like, oh,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
and you're like, oh, I'm just gonna order
water,
some
you know?
water. And everybody's like, oh, you're just ordering some water. And you're like, yeah, man, water is good for you. It's better than the coffee or the drink. Like, it's better for you. It's free. And you're going to tell me like, why don't you get something else? Why are you just getting water? I don't know, because the other stuff is garbage.
Dude, literally, like,
yeah, they're not gonna. I'm sorry, like they're not gonna get any more money. They're not getting commission on selling you an extra Coke. Like you're not doing the workers any service. You're just making like the CEO.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like it's marketing at its finest. I mean, I remember when I was younger, I just didn't like the taste of soda. Like it was just even like the first time I was introduced to it, I was over a friend's house, and then they just had it. Like we had like a sandwich, and they gave me like some cup of like I don't know, maybe it was like Pepsi or something. And, like I tried to like drink it, and like it just like fizzed up my nose. Like I don't know, it was weird. I'm like, oh no, I hate this. Like don't. And I tried over time, like. Okay, this is like the cool thing to do. Like people like it. I've tried to drink it, but I'm like, no, I can't do it. So I just stuck with my water. The only other thing that I drink that's like, is like orange juice maybe, and like that's it. So every time, like you said, yeah, every time I go somewhere, like people are like, oh, all you want is like water with your meal. I'm like, yeah. Or sometimes I'll just bring like I just have like a water bottle on me already, so I don't even need to buy like a water bottle. Like it's pretty that's pretty convenient, But, like, you made a great point. Like, if you're going to go to McDonald's, not only is it pretty expensive now, like, you're going to also, like, that parent that's buying it for their kid, they're also going to pay for it on the back end for health reasons. Because, over time, like, your health is going to, like, get worse. The child's health is going to get worse in some way, some shape or form. So you're going to be paying out, out of it in that end, too, to try to repair, like, maybe like the illnesses or the sickness that's going to entail. So you might as well just like try to, and again, like, it is an education thing. It really is that, and just marketing, like this. We are being shoved with a whole bunch of like subconscious marketing all the time. Like you always see like pretty much every day you always end up seeing like a picture of a burger somewhere. Like that's just gonna happen, like no matter where you are, like on the internet, like on a billboard or something. So and then like, education, like I was not taught like how to like, okay, what should you buy at the grocery store? Like, or what can you do to save money? And it's so tied with financial literacy. And if you don't, Andrew Yang has said this before, if you don't have money, it's going to be hard for you to like practice that financial literacy because you're like, you're not, it's not in motion. Like you're not like doing trial and error. You're not actually like trying out stuff. So yeah, it's
yeah, you just basically wait until you basically wait until you're really, really hungry, and then whatever is right there, the quickest, you just buy it. And then you know what? Like really, this stuff starts in schools because
it does.
So I was in, I grew up in basically a second world country. I grew up in Belarus, and we're pretty much, and Putin has a pretty huge control over what goes on there. But the people are basically just farmers, but the thing is, like our school lunches were like buckwheat and oatmeal and stuff like that, and it's good stuff. Like it's really good stuff that's good for you, and it's cheap, so you can feed all the kids, and it was also free. We didn't pay for it. Then I go to American schools. One, I'm paying for lunches. Two, I mean, we can't afford paying for lunches, so my parents are giving me like bologna sandwiches, which is like I wasn't against it. Like I understand, I eat what I could get.
I love bologna.
Yeah, but then three. Now that there are kids making fun of me for eating bologna sandwiches. Four, I bring in, a Dr. Tops, which Tops was like our little food store chain. And I bring in this like generic Dr. Pepper brand. And now kids are making fun of me because I have a generic Dr. Pepper brand.
Oh, you got the Kmart off-brand Dr. Pepper. That is
exactly.
not good enough. That's not good enough for me.
Right?
Where does that come from? And like,
Well,
I would tie that to that like heavy militaristic consumerism that's just shoved down everyone's throats. It's like fashion in a lot of ways, and it's just like they shouldn't be mutually exclusive like that.
Well, and they use kids. They exploit kids in this way. Because everybody says like everybody's like, oh, well, how are this kids' lunches? Do they like the flavor of it? Who cares? They're children. They don't know. They don't know the broccoli is good for them. Make them eat the shit. Make them like it. And then the other thing is like, again, I understand that pizza and tater tots and hamburgers taste good. They are zero nutrition. Zero nutrition. That's actually it's all empty calories. Give them oatmeal and just shove it down their throats and just make them understand that like this is food. This is real food. And like put a little sugar in it. I don't know, like not that difficult to actually make it decent. The other thing is we have to like change the mentality of like, you know, if we're gonna you know, you can have those instant oatmeal packs and fill them with a little fruit inside of it, and then, you know, put a little brown sugar on top, and now it looks like a very delicious meal. It's like yogurt, but it's food. And I mean, like, but that's just it. Is like we use children and exploit them by saying that like we need to get tasty foods into the school. No, we need to get nutritious foods into the school. And I mean, I want to like, yes, we should listen to our children. We should listen to what our children are saying and try and make their lives better. But when it comes to what they eat, like, no, you have to eat good food. You have to understand what good food is before you can make a decision on what you're going to eat. Well, and then the other thing about it, just so I can finish real quick, you know, how many people do we know now that like they grew up living on tater tots and chicken nuggets and all that kind of stuff, and now they can't eat anything else. Everything else tastes bad to them. And they're like, I'm trying to hand them an apple and be like, dude, eat this. You're going to feel great. You're not going to feel like lethargic. You're not going to feel anemic. But they're like, nah, man, I can't eat oranges. I can't eat apples. I can't eat grapefruit. I can't eat pear. And I'm just like, you understand that's like human food. That's food. And what you're eating in the form of pizza and hamburgers is slop. And slop is food for our cattle. Slop is food for pigs and livestock and stuff like that. So like, why are we eating slop instead of eating human food?
I know a lot of it is definitely like, think about it. I'm not sure how kids are. I'm not sure what's going on now, but I know when I was growing up, like I'm only 20 years old, but I did grow up on like the TV, partially computer, but mainly TV. You know, Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, and then various other things. But like, think about it. The commercials that you watch were pretty much, oh, look, we're going to eat Airheads and we're having fun and we're like rocking out. Oh, Sour Patch Kids. Oh, McDonald's. Like, you don't get like, oh, we're going to eat some freaking spinach. Woo! Like, you don't get that. And there's a reason why. Like, that is a reason why. They know that these foods are highly addictive, and it is way, it's brilliant marketing. Really, that's all. They're really why, you know, a kid, you know, why like at school, you know, you might get, or like you would get bullied for like not having like the cool foods, because that's kind of what you've been actually taught, you know. And of course, I mean, like, schools can only teach but so much, you know. It really is like what happens, like, you know, 2/3 of a kid's life is outside of school. So what's happening on that 2/3? You know, like, are they just watching TV or watching like YouTube and getting their information there? Are their parents with them? Probably not, because their parents are working their asses off trying to at least like keep the rent and like buy them whatever food they can. So it's like how these kids are actually learning, like in what way, you know, that's a big part of it, I think.
Man, if anybody watching this is really into punk rock, I don't know, definitely check out this band called The Idols. They're a UK band that just started a couple of years ago. And they have like an NPR Tiny Desk, which a punk band doing NPR Tiny Desk is awesome. Yeah. Like they pull people from like the audience who are like the people that work there and have them play instruments. They get up on the tables and like really punk rock the shit out of it. But one of their songs is called Mother, and the repeating verses, that they sing, my mother works 15 hours 5 days a week. My mother works 16 hours 6 days a week. My mother works 17 hours 7 days a week. and you're like, oh wow, like that hits, because like when you and you can tell that like he's not angry at his mom. You know, he's not like, oh fuck you mom for not being there. He's angry at the work, that there's some, you know. And I saw this recent post about it was like entrepreneurs, and one of them was like, oh, you know, the person who's in charge can choose who they want to fire because they're the boss and they're the ones that are making the jobs, and that is pushing the economy forward. And I'm just like, yep, sounds just like a slave driver to me. Why are we letting these slave drivers like affect our lives, take away parents from children, you know, force people to feel inadequate if they're not working 40 hours a week? Like, no, absolutely not. Like, I'm not. Like, enough is enough. We need to get to 30-hour work weeks. 30-hour work weeks only means that we open up more hours for other people to work. If we force people to work full time, then we basically force certain people to not have a job. But if we force people, not force, but if we say that full time is part time or part time is not full time, then it opens up a lot more time for other people to come in and do those jobs.
Dude, that's a good point.
And then, you know, your mental health increases too, because you're not being overworked. You can now have 2 jobs, and you would actually be more stimulated working 2 jobs 40 hours a week, because you're not just doing the same thing over and over again. And, you know, I mean, again, if you just started like going step by step of why it's better to cut down the work week, and even then, like servers who need their shifts picked up and stuff like that. You know, if they're working 40 hours a week, they're going to be like, nah, man, I'm not picking that shift up for you because I'm already working so much. Yeah. If every server is working 25 hours a week, they'll be like, yeah, I'll pick up your next week if you want to go out of town, because, you know, I'm not working that much and I wouldn't mind making a little extra money. People would just be more willing to work with each other's schedule, work around each other's schedule. It'd be easier for us to get things done. And because we aren't overworked and we aren't so tired, the productivity will just shoot through the roof. People will be working better. They'll be more productive. They'll be more motivated. They'll be happier to go to work. Like I get the, you know, the benefit of sometimes having like a job that I only go do 3 days a week, because I, you know, tell them like, hey, I'm a musician. So I have to go do that. And when I have a job that I only do 3 days a week, I'm excited to go to work. I'm just like, oh man, here's something different that I don't get to do every day. It's not a monotony. It's not like the same repetition. It's like, oh, I get to go here and maybe make some new friends, meet some interesting people, have conversations that I normally wouldn't have, and then, you know, come home.
No, I hear you. And like when it comes down to productivity and all that, again, there is just infinite data to back this up, especially since the 1970s. Our work weeks are like an amount of hours that was like socially just we're conditioned to do every week, that has gone up. And our productivity has gone way up, of course, because we're working so much more time. Everyone's working so much more, but the compensation for that work and the increase of how much more, you know, productivity we have not seen that. And now we're at this point where, I mean, I've had friends, you know, like when I heard that my friend, that she was working 60 to 80 hours a week just so she could have like basic like spending money, not like, you know, shopping Chanel or anything, but just to the point of like you can afford going out every weekend or so just to have some drinks, you know, spend like $40 or something when you go out. But like what's required to do that now and just have a basic night where you can just relax. Oh my goodness. This is unprecedented of the amount of work that is demanded by us. And the big knee-jerk reaction I always hear against TBI, and the first one you always hear from like old school, old-headed Americans are just like, oh, you're just lazy. Oh, it's just laziness with the youth. And it's like, dude, I am so insulted every time I hear that, because you feel like, you know, a POS if you're not working 40, 50 hours a week. And then you get actually peers, our like people around anywhere in our age group, we're like shaming each other. It's like, oh, you only had to work 45 this week? Well, I had to work 70. And it's like, that shouldn't be, we shouldn't be making that comparison. We should be coming together and saying, this is all collectively BS of what's expected out of us. And like Sergey said, when you aren't so pressed with having to, you know, wake up at like 6 a.m. and then get to bed at like 9 p.m., or even later. It's just like that helps so much with your mental health. It helps in that as a just huge reflection on your social ability, how you get along with people, how you can collaborate with people. I mean, the possibilities are endless when you just get that boot off of our neck of just that we have to work X amount of hours a week. I mean, my friend literally made more just standard bartending than she does with her college 4-year STEM field chemistry job. She makes more with bartending, which takes how long to train for? I'm not trying to shame bartenders or that profession, but the amount of time it takes to get into that industry versus 4 or 5 years of studying and getting straight A's and going into obscene amounts of debt. You don't even make that much, and then you're stuck in this. You have to work 40, 50 hours a week with that one job, and that doesn't make enough, so you got to get an extra 20 hours at this job. You don't have time for anything. Your mental health sharply starts to decline. And if all these people are wondering why we're so lazy, no, we're just finally starting to say, dude, this is enough. We are not getting paid for the amount of work we're taking on. And it's just more and more that it's expected out of us, and it's just BS.
You're 100% right. Yeah, I mean, I had a friend too. We graduated the same year, and she wanted to go to college. I think she still wants to be a teacher, but she, that was her goal, was to be a teacher. But she had to get a job, even before she even graduated high school, to help out with her. She lives with her grandma, and she wants to help out with paying for the rent there. So she pretty much had to get a job. But basically she got a job at this place called Duck Donuts, the donut place on Main Street in College, in the University of Delaware campus. And it's it was minimum wage, but she was working crazy, 60 hours a week, something like that. Yeah. And she was a good worker, but she was getting drained, and she was doing full time at the University of at a community college. So we went to Delaware Technical Community College, and I quit for 1 semester. I think she did maybe another semester after that, but she was just getting so drained of working full time and school full time. She had to stop going to school. She was like, listen, I have to make money. Why? At this point, I have to, get money to at least survive and to have some sort of disposable income. Why am I why can't I get enough money to just spend or have something for myself just in case, or save up? So that, I mean, I get it. So many people are in that position, and it hits home for me. It's shit. I know people are trying. I know my generation wants. In fact, you know what? When we don't have something to do, we actually get more anxiety. I get anxiety when I don't have something to do. I'm
that's
okay,
how instilled it is. That's how deeply instilled it is in our generation, and that is just inhumane, man.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. So trust me, I understand that on the macro, sure, we are more better off than another country. We do have more things, pretty much everybody has a smartphone, and we are able to get kind of good quality food. But but I mean, we're still really unhappy. We're still, I wouldn't say that lazy is just such a strong word at this point, because
I think the word you're looking for there is lethargic. And so it's not laziness, it's that no motivation, down. It's fatigue.
Yep.
It has to do with fatigue.
Yeah.
And we just became complacent. But the other thing is when you were talking about work, no, I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea. We love work. I love work. I work all the freaking time. It's just not what everybody else considers work. But we've had so we were talking about McDonald's earlier. Why do we advertise so much? Well, because a bunch of McDonald's bought up a whole bunch of farms, and then you started seeing those commercials this is a McDonald's farmer, and he makes stuff. It's great. So he's just this giant farmer who creates food he creates food for slop. I mean, it's we all know it's bad
he's a
food.
cog in the machine.
It's not good food. Even if you get like a high quality burger that's like on a price, it's fast. It's there to just make us feel good. It is a drug. You pretty much every time you take a bite of a burger, it's like taking a hit of weed, and that's all it is. And it's almost just as beneficial for you too.
I mean, like it's ridiculous. The comfort like that. I know exactly what you're talking about. So you're like, when I remember my first McDonald's cheeseburger. It was like a plain one. I got it after a little league practice. I'm not kidding, man. I remember that first bite, and to a 9-year-old's palate, it was bliss. And then you wash it down with that sugary Coke, and it's just like, oh my gosh, I am like, in heaven. But then you want another, and you want another, and you want another, and you make it like a weekly thing. You make it every two times a week, and it got to the point where I literally, like, a couple years after my first burger, I stopped doing athletics. Like, it's like, there you go. So
yeah, like when I first came to America,
it's so ingrained in your head.
Yeah, when I first came to America, it was like day 2, and our family member that were already here, they're like, oh, we got to take you to like a Burger King because that's like so American. And I was 9 years old also, and yeah, they took me. So like, I'm a Burger King person. I don't like McDonald's. I don't know. It's probably because I had Burger King first, you know, and I don't see any other. But I still think it's better. I think it's got like a little bit of a better taste to it. It might even be nutritionally better, but I don't know why I think that. I think it's because I just had it first, and that was my experience. And yeah, I remember that too. I remember how amazing it was. And like, there's the Burger King Kids Club, and I got my first Happy Meal toy. And I'm like, wow, America's so great, and all of this like awesome stuff. But then like it took my parents a little while to like even get me back into just like regular food. And then I remember actually one of the funniest things that happened was we didn't know what lettuce was, and nothing against people that eat lettuce, but it's such a waste of just stuff. Lettuce is good to feed your, again, it's good for livestock. That's pretty much it, because it's not very nutritious. If you eat like lettuce and just lettuce, you're pretty much just losing calories. But I remember we bought a chunk of lettuce because we've never seen it before, and we actually thought it was cabbage. And then when we unraveled it, because we love cabbage as Russians, everybody knows that. But yeah, so we like took it out of the packaging, and we're like, we tasted it. We're like, what is this garbage? What is this like food that's completely devoid of any kind of flavor, any kind of anything? Like, we're like, and then somebody's like, oh, you bought lettuce, and we're like, nope, never buying lettuce again. And also, so yeah, like again, like we came from a country that's poorer than this, and like, don't get me wrong, America is way better than Belarus. Like, we love the opportunity. This country is absolutely amazing. But when we're just talking about food, yeah, like our jobs got better, our living situations got better, our neighborhoods became better, the people that we met were better. And even though like there was a little bit of that, like, like, oh, you're Russian, screw you type of thing, it was, even the kids were, it was better. Like I didn't get into as many fights. There wasn't, so I'm not trying to bash on America. But when it comes to our food and the way that we feed ourselves, the first time I ever bit into a store-bought tomato, as a family, like we bit into a store-bought tomato when we first bought it, and we were like, wow, this is garbage. Then we bit into a store-bought, apple. We're like, this is garbage. Store-bought peach, this is garbage. The first time I tasted a peach that like, like scent and smell like ties to memory. It's like one of the greatest things ties to memory. So like the first time I tasted a peach and it brought me back to Belarus was when I was living in South Carolina, and I got one of those like true South Carolina peaches in season, like, and I was like, oh yeah, like this is a peach. But it's been, it was almost 20 years until I tasted a peach that was just as good as what I got in my, in Belarus. And that was like, so that was, everything else got better, but the food quality like went down a lot. It looked prettier. Yeah, like the food here looks really, really, like the apples are really red, the tomatoes are really red, the cucumbers are really big. But then you taste it and there's no flavor. It all tastes like cardboard.
Oh my gosh.
And it's gross. Even the stuff that I grow, like if it's a Monsanto seed, even my at-home backyard tomatoes have never tasted as good as like when, you know, like when somebody comes from another country and he's like, this is what I grow, and I eat it and I'm like, oh man, this is so fantastic. I miss good food. I don't even think French cuisine is better. I think French cuisine is just better because, you know, Americans don't know what a real vegetable tastes like.
Are.
Yeah.
You're 100% right. I mean,
know exactly what you mean. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like my mom, she was born, raised in North Carolina, and she was like farmland. You know, she helped. I think like her parents, like they had a farm, so like she like they're even like right there right now. Like my mom and my aunt, like they love fruits, especially, and they love vegetables. And like my mom, like she moved from there to like Philly, like maybe I think she's like 20, 22, something like that. But like now, like she's like, man, like I can't, like it's just the fruit has gone, it's tasteless. Like you said, like exactly what your experience, Sergey, is like her experience. But like it's just like because she was born like in the South, like I guess like, and she's a boomer too, and she's, you know, been living for a while. So I'm sure like things have gotten worse because of that too, not just because of location, but because like there's been so many people, like just like we have an overpopulation problem. So like these manufacturers have to like keep like artificially making and growing these fruit, and of course they're probably not like you know, taking them off. They're probably taking them off like the stem too soon, or like all this stuff. And it's a combination of a lot of things. But yeah, you're right. Like I believe that fruit does not taste as good as it should.
Oh, you know, you actually hit it right there when you said they're overproducing. It's actually not an overpopulation problem. It's the way we our food standards. When you look at food standards and what is appropriate and what isn't, they're just not realistic. Like food is food is food is food. If your pear looks like if your pear doesn't look like a perfect pear, if it looks more like a penis, it's okay. You know, like if your apple looks more like a pear, it's okay. And if it's got a little bit of bruise on it, it's okay. Actually, like the stuff that you get into the stores, usually it's like it's not even ripe, and when you let it ripen, because it doesn't ripe in the proper way, it turns to mush like faster. It turns bad faster. So the thing is, like we were just talking about those big McDonald's farms, and Andrew himself talked about how like we pretty much, you know, the small mom and pop farmers have been pushed out a long time ago. It's not like automation that's coming for them. It was these big conglomerate farms that took them out of business. But we did not need those farms, and those farms were the ones that set the standard. We actually need more smaller farms. If we just had more, think about turning if every single Walmart became an urban farm, we would have good food. You know, if every single Walmart, Kmart, and all of these other stores that we don't need, if we take all of the chain big corporation stores, turn them into urban farms, let people, you know, give people good jobs that they can actually feel good about. There's not going to be a food shortage. There's not going to be any kind of crisis. It's actually going to be better for us. And we would have better food. We would have food that doesn't have to travel as much. I mean, like my friends buy Idaho potatoes right now. And I'm sitting there like, why? Why are you not buying Michigan potatoes? Like you live in Michigan, the cost of those potatoes to get from Idaho to Michigan is greater than it getting from Michigan to Michigan. And then the other part of it is like they have to take that potato to you earlier so it doesn't go bad. So like the stuff that the Michigan potatoes that you're getting, it's fresher, it's better. And when you live in a region, it's better to eat the food from that region because you live in that climate. Your body is adjusting to that climate. So you should be eating the food that is indigenous to that climate. But for some reason, we all know Idaho potatoes. We all know Idaho potatoes. We all know Carolina peaches. We all know
it's just a jingle. It's the jingle that makes these people get it. It's like, oh my God, you know, are you kidding me? A jingle won you over on your decision.
It's marketing, man. I'm telling you, it all comes back to that. Like, it's brilliant, really. They fucked us over like hardcore, honestly, guys.
And then the people are asking like, oh, we don't have the money to do this. And then again, like Andrew keeps saying, like, here's the thing. We spend so much money to make sure that people don't know this. We spend so much money on marketing, on lobbying, on backdoor deals, on paying people off, on lawsuits. And like, instead we could just be spending it on people and letting everybody be okay. But like, no, we're going to spend more money to make sure that people are kept down. It's than we would to spend money to make sure that people have what they need and doing what they want. Because I mean, it's only, and then like the kind of lifestyle they're selling us. This is why I wanted to create the mall idea that we discussed in an earlier show. And if you haven't seen that, the mall idea show, I highly recommend watching that one.
I put it into a clip too. So
yeah, no, it's good. Oh man. Now I kind of lost my train of thought, but we were talking about marketing
and like the farming and like in the mall. Remember when you told me like the mall would probably have like a agricultural kind of like place as well, maybe, and probably kind of like I don't know if it would like people. I guess like it would be like an activity thing. Like okay, people can come because like I honestly like I would love to have a little farm. I love animals and stuff like that. So I just think it's like cute. I don't know. Like I just always I've been having that thought for like at least like maybe like 5 years now. Like I don't know. Like I know it's probably impossible now because like you said, like everything is getting bought up by a huge company. But like if that could come back, like I would love that. I don't know.
Oh, and it can. We just have to rethink the way we build our cities and the way we tie. And the way we tie business and like city life and like suburban life or urban life. We can build cities in a way where we're trying to invite these companies with a lot of money to then give us jobs, or we can build cities in a way where we just put up businesses that provide goods and services that people actually want and need. And that's the difference. Like, don't incentivize giant companies like McDonald's and Fridays and whoever else to come into your place. Build a good model for your city, and then have people create their own storefronts, have people create their own what they believe the community wants, because the community knows better what the community wants, and the community doesn't want just like a bunch of mindless jobs. I'd rather be paying people to cleaning up the streets and taking care of the elderly and making sure that we have like daycares. I mean I don't know if like how many people know like mothers that like they'll take on like 4 to 5 families, children from like the streets, and they'll just come over and they'll hang out. Like my mom used to do that all the time, and that's like the only reason why I had friends, because nobody wanted to hang out with the weird Russian kid. But now like there was pretty much a daycare set up in my mom's house. They were like, all right, the weird Russian kid's cool because we get to hang out at a place that's not ours. And then the same thing with the elderly people. People keep saying like we don't have to put them in nursing homes, and we don't have to put them in anything, or even like give any kind of programs. I've been trying to instill this like one program for a while now, and so what we do with elderly people is we let them teach and educate the young people. And so when we set up daycares, you just have a bunch of lonely, retirees who are communicating, reading stories, and telling people about the old world and how things used to be. So we would be. Kids will still be on their technology and all that kind of stuff, but then like as we're playing Skyrim or The Witcher or any of those other like fantasy things, then like your grandma or your grandpa is like, or someone else's grandma and grandpa is telling you about like how this is how we used to live, and then you're like, oh man, this is really great. Like I'm learning. Like I don't need to just be on my phone all the time. I could just go and talk to this awesome old lady or this awesome old man, and they'll tell me these like really cool stories. So like for teenagers and for adults, we're like, oh man, listen to those old people rambling. But for young kids, having that kind of attention, that's all they need. So we don't have to treat people like they're useless and we have to throw them away. And we do that to kids and we do that to old people. But if we put those two groups together and we let them learn from, because what the kid can teach the elderly is how to use the frickin' technology. And the elderly can teach the kids how to cope without it. And that would like bridge everything. It would make like, and then we'll kind of like, then that kid graduates high school, right? And thinks like, well, I don't really want to go to college, but I do remember that like there were a bunch of really cool old people that used to teach us. So I'm going to go help them. I'm going to go volunteer at a nursing home, or I'm just going to go be a caregiver. I'm just going to go take, make sure that they have what they need because of what they gave me. Or maybe I'm going to go, farm, or maybe, whatever it is that I learned from them. We're going to have more opportunities and more things that we can consider work, instead of just like, oh, I have to go work at a restaurant so I can pay my bills to go through college, so then I can get a job as an accountant or a call center, so then I can slowly move my way up to some kind of cubicle where now I absolutely hate everything that I'm doing. I don't like coming home to my family because I see them so little, and I hate that about myself, but I don't want to be angry at them, but I'm projecting all of that at them. And it's just like this destructive path that we've been on, and for so long. I mean, we've been doing this ever since like the first, like real industrial revolution. We've just been like, as soon as we went away from rural areas and everybody started moving to the cities and starting working in factories, that like family life ended, and then we got the nuclear family. And the nuclear family is, mom and dad, 2 kids. The grandparents are pretty much out of the picture, and it's no longer a whole village that's raising, that's raising the children. It's just these two parent households and nothing else, and everybody's isolated from one another. And then we've been living that way for about 60 years now. Think of what that did to our development, our mental development, our social structure. Why do we communicate better online and through text messages than even on the phone? Like, nobody even likes to pick up a phone anymore. I used to love having like hour-long conversations on the phone. The first time you and I, Alyssa, talked, like we talked for like 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
First time you and I spoke, we spoke for a really long time as well, because we actually had something to say to each other. But most of us, like, and it's because we were excited about Yang, because we haven't had a chance to really talk to anyone about it.
I know, right?
But most of us, like, it's like, oh, send me a text. I don't like phone calls. We're afraid of hearing that. Like, we need that time to think of the perfect answer.
Yeah, no, it's so true. Okay, so, oh my gosh. So yeah, when you talked about, the elderly, you're totally right. And I have to bring this person up because this is my dude, Gary Vaynerchuk. He literally, he has said multiple times, like, listen, when I was a kid, I used to love going and talking to random old people because they would be cool to talk to, and they would give me perspective. Him talk as an adult now, like, he learned so much from them. And actually, he said like the number one thing that he learned from them is not the number one thing, but the thing that he learned is a lot of old people regret. And from that, he was like, okay, like, no matter what in my life, I'm going to make sure that I do not have any regrets, and I do whatever I feel as though like I should do, or, just go all in what, my intuition is saying, basically. And he will say people like, hey, like, you guys, I don't care who you are, go to a retirement home and then talk to these people, because you'll gain a lot of interesting perspectives that will, if you're like feeling depressed, or if you're feeling like, your life doesn't matter, an older person will give you that perspective that you may need to help you out. And yeah, and you're right. Like younger kids, like, when you're younger, like, you don't have as much like judgment is not as much implanted in you, like as much as you like grow up. So like, you're not thinking, oh, this old person, like, who is this, like, old person? Like, you're thinking, oh wow, this is a person, and I can't wait to like talk to them. And having that like, sort of like program is pretty it's brilliant. Really, like, there is a place for elderly people in society, and not just in America, but in a lot of other places too. They kind of treat old people like crap. Like, I know, like, in Japan and South Korea, like, a lot of old people are like poor, and they have to like work until they die. A lot of them are sex workers. They don't, like, they have to like work and work and work, and that, like, taking care of the elderly are like, we're so like you said, isolated, and we're all just trying to focus on ourselves. And we're like, everybody else has to go to the wayside. Like, that's what especially our economy, that's what our culture has done to us.
So Marc, what would you have to say? I mean, this is all about, abundance mindset versus scarcity mindset. This is exactly what we're talking
Abundance
about.
creamer, and that's what I gotta say to you. That's so much said. But yeah, no, everything you guys have been talking about is like critically important to have a conversation about, especially as it pertains. I would say in America with old folk, it's very odd because it's generational. It's also it's based on like your social class. If you were like the average like white family or whatever, I'll just reference my parents' parents. They had their entry points in the economy. They got stuff done. But the thing is that and of course back then they were all guaranteed their pensions and all that, right? Like you guys, long story short, you work this, you do this job for X amount of time, you'll be all right, you'll be able to retire and happily die. But the point is it's now you're seeing all these like pension plans, all this stuff that I would say my parents are a part of the new generation of like, now it's a scarcity economy for retirement. And what does that mean for our generation? I mean, it's going to be even worse. I always like to have a talk with my parents. It's like, and I'm not trying to be pouty about it, but it's just the truth. It's like, hey, Ma, hey, Dad, when you guys got out of high school, going to college was in really like smart idea because that's going to guarantee you like you're good for the rest of your life. Even that being said, you could get out of college back then, get into like the auto manufacturing work and like in the auto plants, like from where I grew up, right around Flint, Michigan. It had the same kind of thing. It was like mini Detroit. So we had a bunch of auto jobs, and you would be paid such of a good amount, and they would request 40 hours a week, but that's it. After you got your 40 hours a week, you could literally probably get a house in, I would say, 6 to 18 months after taking that first job. And I was telling my parents that, and they're like, yeah, that was normal back then. And I tell them what it is now, and it's like, no, you got to get, in some cases, if you want to be that lucrative, you got to have like either 2 to 3 degrees. But then again, college is so overprescribed now that the value of it has definitely dropped. And now the job market's being automated. So robots beat out your 4, 6 year, 8 year degree. And we're at this point now where we're just, again, being demanded so much. And I feel like some old folk get it, as long as we have these honest conversations with them. If it just becomes a shame fest, like, oh, screw you, boomer, you screwed up the economy. And like, it's like, well, yeah, but at the same point, shaming them is just that's not going to get them on your team and not get them to see your POV. So the question now is, how do we convince people we need to redefine work or we're screwed? Or we need to redefine our working hours. We need to redefine what work is. Of course, I'm going to always go to UBI because I think that's an amazing way to just make it universal and give everyone a bit of leverage. But, I always see these arguments just coming down to like 2 generations that don't understand each other's respective times, and that's the sad part about it. So I really do hope that changes. Because we need to have those conversations now in center. We got to get out of this political theater ASAP. And if we're stuck in it for much longer, I mean, Christ, man, suicide is going to go up. Depression, anxiety is going to go up. Pharmaceutical industry is going to have a heyday with prescribing any type of drugs they can. Yeah. I could even tell you guys about my experience. It was like my first time like seeing like some sort of like a therapist or whatever. And that was like back at the end of high school for me. And I get in there and I was honest with like what I did, which at the time I would only use like maybe like cannabis 1 out of like, I don't know, like 2 or 3 nights a week. Just like, it's a quick hit before I go to bed because I had sleep anxiety. And immediately, this guy has this like very old school mindset of weed is ruining your life. Without even asking me any questions about how it makes me feel. And just immediately wanted to like throw me on antidepressants, on maybe even Adderall, all of this stuff right on my first visit. This guy was, in his like late 60s, 70s. And I just felt like there was this massive communication gap where now we're at the point where like all these problems that we're experiencing, it's being capitalized on by, say, big pharma, big business, like McDonald's, for example, for food, and if you just want a quick bite to eat. The pharmaceutical industry is just absolutely ridiculously gouged, and if you've got health insurance, great. You've only got like a $3 or $5 copay on a huge thing of Adderall, which if you're equivocating it, that's like a lot of free cocaine, because now you see people like they'll take their prescriptions, they'll just like throw it out right on the table and just start grinding up and just do lines upon lines of it just for recreation. And it's like, what the hell's going on here? Like I'm not trying to be like, I'm not trying to be like not hip here, but like seriously, at what point does it just become like, this is just madness? We're just living in this madness, and it's showing trends of just getting worse. So we've got to have all these conversations in one blanket policy, and that's why we have 100 plus policies at yang2020.com. yang2020.com/policies. Thank you.
Oh. Yeah, like really quick, I'll let you speak for a second, Sergey, but I've mentioned this to Sergey. We were on the phone like a while ago about this guy named Jan Hardy, and he was on, I know him from Joe Rogan, but like most recently he was actually on the David Pakman show, and he was talking about depression and how he had, I think he lived in he was born and raised in the UK, but now he's in America, and he grew up with like this chronic depression, and he was just shoved like antidepressants like all of his life, like, and that would work for a little bit because obviously now, like, or at the time when he was growing up, and even now people will say like, oh, well, it's just like chemical imbalance, like here's some pills to go, but like that did not help him out in the long run because he, it kind of helped, but after a while, like he still felt this like sense of like dread and anxiety. So he like made it his life mission to be like, okay, like what is this? What is depression? And essentially, like his conclusion was he wrote a couple of books about it, but his conclusion was, okay, like we have a more like existential crisis. It's not just like for a lot of the time, it's not just a chemical imbalance. I'm sure that's a factor, but a lot of us just do not have meaning in our life. That's like the summary. Like he has like a lot of shit to say about it, but that's the core of it. And he also gets in, like most recently, he's talking about like, drug addicts and like what is a drug addict. And he brings up the point where I've never even thought about, but he brings up the point, like, listen, like if you're in the hospital because, I don't know, you like broke your arm or something, and Sergey knows this, like you get like, they inject you with like heroin or something on the lines of that. Yeah, exactly. And, you get healed and like you try to like numb the pain. But those people, why aren't they like addicted to heroin? Why aren't they like trying to go out and like get that same rush if it's just a chemical imbalance? So obviously there's something else going on, like for you to go to that other step, be like, oh, I need this hit. And mostly that's because of, like again, like that, you're like going into, maybe you just met somebody that like you've actually took recreational drugs and like you feel that like, okay, I'm having fun, like I'm doing something productive. And then, obviously I don't even have like, if you want to do drugs, fine. Like that's why, like essentially right now, this guy Johan, he wants drugs to be decriminalized and legalized to at least like decrease the stigma of it, because obviously that just creates this like circling effect of like shaming people and then locking people up, and then that does not get people off of drugs at all. It does the opposite. So a lot of it is, you're right, big pharma really like profiting off of.
They take direct advantage of the war on drugs, and by the way, they have lobbyists everywhere in fucking our government that are just trying to push for no possible way for people like us to stand up and say, you're killing us. They're running a business and it is killing people. And the war on drugs, like you said about going to the hospital, you're not going to see these people. There's this really good Krutzkazart video on YouTube. That's actually the people I learned about UBI from in the first place. but it's about like just the mindset of drugs and stuff, and why we need treatment clinics without a doubt over any type of incarceration. It actually has a addiction to drugs has a strong correlation to actually loneliness, and that's something we've been talking about too. Is that fact that we're so, like Sergey said, phone calls are taboo now. What the hell? You know, this is technically a phone call just with video, but like it comes down to the loneliness. So there was this experiment done with these rats. It's literally, look it up on YouTube. It's called Rat Park Experiment, and because rats actually have a lot, I guess, similar like neuro or brain chemistry to how humans operate. And pretty much they have two water feeders. One of them is laced with morphine, so it's going to make you feel really good, or heroin actually at this point. It makes you feel really good when you sip it, but then you got normal water too. So if you put a rat in a cage and it has no one else to be like social with, it has no one else to, because rats are very social animals. If they didn't have that, like, I can do what I want, I can socialize with who I want, I got like a play pit to play around in. In the test where you had the lonely rat cage and then like the happy rat park cage, the rats, it's literally opposites in what water they chose to drink. The lonely rats would always go for the drugged water, and the happy rats would almost never go for the drugged water. And that's just because they had these social means to communicate with, like, you know, other rats. That was it. And that's effectively how our lives are going right now.
Yeah.
You know, the average house, middle class house, the houses just keep getting bigger. The square footage just keeps getting bigger, and we're getting farther and farther from people. And I mean, Christ, probably Sergey could really chime in there with, like, because I mean, I'm born bred American. I know this just as the back of my hand, of like how distant we are from one another and how that correlates to the war on drugs. You're going to see drug use spike when someone doesn't have purpose or they don't have social means to communicate with others. Those are two key critical things.
You're totally right. And Johan like talks about that too, Rat Park, and how that evolved. Because at first, yeah, it was just like, you know, what people's understanding of drugs was that, okay, the rats were going to go for, you know, the spiked water rather than the clean water. So like at first it was just like, it was just one rat and then in an isolated area. But this other scientist, he's like, wait a minute, like what happened if you were kind of like made that like area a little more fun, you know, put some other rats in there, put, you know, they can eat whatever they want, they can have sex whenever they want, bam. And then that, literally that's what happened.
Sounds like a good park.
I know, right? So, and you're right, after then, like the rat, they actually avoided the you know, the spiked water. They had everything they need, essentially. That's the long and short of it. Yeah, you're
so how do you
right.
build the human version of Rat Park in America?
The malls, like Sergey's mall idea.
I love the malls.
Yes, except for the sex part.
Oh, yeah.
But actually, you know what?
Hey,
you know what the funny?
hey,
you know what the
hey,
interesting
we don't have
thing
to
is?
write it off. Okay.
Right. That's part of Bernie's plan. We're not ready yet for like the sex worker thing. We just legalized marijuana. Let's we're getting there. But actually, you know, another part of the mall idea was I always did, like, I want to model it after an old school inn. It's like when you think of Skyrim or a fantasy world, there's always the inns where everybody comes in. And so if you can have like 4 or 5 rooms that can be rented out, you would actually help curb homelessness because they would be really cheap. You would allow more people to travel. It would be like an Airbnb almost, but it would be like super cheap, like something where like we're just covering base costs. But you know, on the side of like drugs and mental health issues and everything else, what's been making me really afraid is this. So most of my friends that grew up in America had at one point been put on some kind of medication. And I mean, mostly because my friends are all musicians, so like obviously I am in a certain demographic where people think we're weird and crazy because we have these ideas, but we're not weird and crazy. We just think in music, we think in math, we think in science. People used to think it's crazy that the world was, you know, round. It's not crazy. The world is round. the sun revolves around or the earth revolves around the sun, not the other way around. And we have all of this knowledge now. We're not crazy. And if you really want to think about it, like the Spanish Inquisition didn't help anyone. So, we can get
except for
Monty
Python films.
Yes.
Sorry.
so here's the thing: is like we started giving drugs to kids. Like early '80s, late '80s, early '90s. We really started pushing the initiative. 2000s, everybody had ADD, and now you have a president who's just gonna say mental illness, mental illness, mental illness, and that's what leads to shootings and all that other stuff. Well, I'm sorry, there was another time in the history of the world where we started blaming everything on mental illness, and then we started locking people up and not giving them guns and not giving them rights, and that was the Nazis. That was them. So we can't do that. We can't just start labeling somebody mentally ill or unstable and then say that like we're going to strip away their rights and we're going to treat them as different. No. Like the people that are mentally ill are the people that want to label others as mentally ill and lock them up. That is insanity. The people who are, somewhat on the fringe of your average normal thought, those are probably the people that can propel society into a better future faster if we give them an outlet to just talk to each other. And that is it. So like we shouldn't be overprescribing medication and even treatment. We should be overprescribing personal contact. And then so what happens when we get the UBI? It's like, hey, this child seems like they have ADD. Great. You know what we should do? We should give them more attention. Or like, oh, this person is struggling with depression. You know what we should do? We should talk to them. This person is struggling with whatever it is, whether it's schizophrenia or like even the worst of diseases. Like I've had friends that I've seen deteriorate into schizophrenia. And what did I have to do? I had to sit there and play music with them and talk to them and listen to them and watch them go through their crazy episodes. And I just had to listen, just let it all out. And then I would ask them like, hey, everything that you just said, what does that make you feel? And they're like, man, it makes me feel crazy. And like, I don't even I can't believe I just said that. And I'm like, well, don't say that. But isn't it awesome how like you can come to those same conclusions? Or, like when there was like this 17-year-old girl ran away from home. Her parents were Russian. And we had that kind of connection. And she ran away from home. She didn't know what she was going to do. So I just hung out with her for a little while. And then, I just sat down and I was like, hey, like, what if we just try meditating? So we just sat down and I'm like, I'm just going to start talking about what's on my head. And I did. And I'm like, now you go ahead and you talk about what's in your head. And she did. And she started talking and talking and talking. And at the end of it, she ended up kind of like tearing up, not breaking down, but tearing up for a little bit and going like, I got to go home. Like, I got to go see my parents because like, I know that they fucked up, but I should be there and I should take whatever punishment they'll deal out. It'll probably be unfair, but I just need to be there because I know that they're trying to provide for me and I know that they're worried sick. I didn't have to say anything to this person. All I had to ask them was, hey, you talk about what's on your mind. And they knew that because I wasn't a psychiatrist, I wasn't a teacher or an elder. I was just some musician that she knew that liked to go to the skate park and play his acoustic guitar. Mm-hmm. And so she just let it all out. And, she came to the right conclusion on her own. And, that's how we fix mental health issues. Even homelessness. I mean, I talked about this we talked about this one of the other times where, some of them aren't homeless people. They're just street people. They're people that this is their lifestyle. And like, come up to them, talk to them, ask them how their day has been. And they will have a lot to tell you. And then just sit down with them maybe one time and have like a really long conversation and let them talk. Don't interject. Don't tell them how you think they can improve their life. Don't tell them what you think is going to be best for them. Don't offer them any advice or opinions. Just keep listening. And when they get to a certain point where you feel like they're stuck, just be like, yeah, I hear you. Like, I totally get where you're coming from. And they'll pick up right where they left off and they'll just keep talking. Let them talk for 20 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. it'll give you a better perspective on the world. It'll humble you. But two, once they hear their own voice, they'll, it'll help them, and they'll figure out what the next step in their, day or in their life is going to be. And it's the same with like when I talk to anybody that's on like a different, hey, look at that pup. When I
I'm
talk,
sorry.
yeah, when I
Chewy
talk,
says hello.
hello. So when I
Sorry.
talk to anybody that's like on an opposite political spectrum than me, I let them talk. Like they're like, oh, well, this is just socialism, and I'm like, okay, go on a rant. Like, let's hear it. Or like, oh, guns are this. So like, okay, go on a rant. Let me hear it. Because eventually they'll hear their own words, and they'll realize what they're actually saying, and then I'll talk for like 20 seconds and just be like, yeah, but have you thought about it this way? And they'll be like, well, I did, but then I think of it like this, and then they'll go off on a rant again. You just let people rant. Let them say their bigoted, homophobic, racist thing that they don't even understand is like that. Let them talk. Let them hear themselves, and eventually, they'll realize, like, they'll even point out faults in their own statements. They'll point out like ways and where they're like, oh, actually, I didn't mean it to say it like that. Or like, oh, actually, no, it's not that I meant to say this. I actually meant it in a different way. People will come to their own conclusions. It's just a lot of us nobody listens anymore. Everybody has the right answers. And like the number one thing is like, start listening. Like if there's not a conversation to be had if one person is just constantly talking. You need to give that time to just breathe and let your ideas evolve too. Like when you listen to the people that aren't like-minded, you can take some of what they said and be like, wait, like that actually does make sense. I mean, they're coming at it from a completely fucked up point of view. But if you guide them in like coming up, if you guide them into like in that same rhetoric, but take it from a more positive and a healthier point of view and a healthier mindset, and one that's filled with less hatred and more love, then you guys can come to an even ground of like, yes, we all agree that all of us want everyone to do better, but that better isn't the same definition for everyone else. So we just have to accept that we all want better for each other, but that better isn't the same for all of us. And so we shouldn't want to push people to do the better thing that we want. We should just have conversations with people about what that better is to them and how we can all work together to make that better for all of us. And that's a really difficult conversation to start having, especially like with how polarized everyone is. Just got to listen.
I think, yeah.
Wonderful point. Wonderful.
Where are you, Mark? Like, are you just outside of your place?
I'm in Grand Blanc. I had a doctor's appointment. I had to get up early today. Boo. But,
I know.
But yeah, no, I'm just like out at my parents' house in the backyard.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, it looks really peaceful. So I was like, oh, yeah.
It is. It is peaceful. Quick point about my hometown, why I had to move out. It's a social problem. Literally, the social factor. I think I told Sergey about this too, when he was down in Detroit. We were kind of talking about how we ended up where we were. I moved out of here like 2 years ago, and it's strictly, and even like my parents are like seeing the light in it now. Like they just were used to Grand Blanc, but going around out here and just even like walking down the street, if you pass by someone, for example, in Detroit, you'll give the eye contact and you'll just kind of give like a little like head nod of acknowledgement saying hello at the minimum. But in Grand Blanc, that is like crazy taboo. People, like, if you're not in a specific clique of like a certain group of people, you're going to be treated like a ghost. And with that being said, there's nothing fun to do in this city. No one actually knows where to go for fun. Everyone just stays in their houses and, drinks Fireball all day. But it's
Let's go.
but still, like, that's a problem to the point where it's like you guys aren't even communicating and you're just like isolating yourselves. I mean, I'd say like 90% of my friends here, if they're not in some sort of like college, they're probably in like some online version where you just do it all from their bedroom, and they're in their bedroom 16, 18 hours a day, and it's scaring the hell out of me because I've given them every, like, hey, just come on down, like as a group or whatever. I'll show you guys around. And they're just scared of stepping out of that social comfort zone that they're so conditioned that is normal around here. And the social conditioning in Grand Blanc is like E-, almost F tier in terms of like just how you can communicate with a fellow person. And it breaks my heart, but once I moved to Detroit, it was the exact opposite of that, and that's why I want to stay in Detroit.
So I have good news and I have bad news. So the good news, I know. So the good news, well, I'll start with the bad news. The bad news is I have to go to work soon, so I have to leave in
phone
like.
battery's dying soon, so.
Oh, it is? Okay, well, I guess it works out. But I have to leave in like 10 minutes. But the good news is that I did buy this like Zoom upgraded thing, so that's why we've been able to talk for as long as we have. So that's good. And now we can have as many people as we want in here, talk for however long. I really have a lot of fun with you guys. I'm not gonna lie. I hate that I have to leave and whatever. But when's the next time? Just think we can still talk. But I'm just thinking, when's the next time it's good for you guys to meet up again?
Just send text. Honestly, it's really just a feeling text of like, hey, do you got anything going on? Then, but I'm telling you, yeah, let's definitely get the ball rolling with like more people. Now we got the Zoom upgraded. Hell,
Right.
let's get Sean in here. From Sergey, from campaign and all that. Let's get Fred in the calls. Let's get Boyce in the calls. Let's get whomever, because these kind of types of conversations across the board, we can be really one of the hubs to start these types of conversations, and that's what's going to really drive this campaign. We're the one that talks to everyone. We're the one that we don't care if you voted for Trump. We don't care if you didn't vote at all. We don't care, whatever. Just come have a conversation with us. Everyone's welcome. Have a coffee, have a smoke, whatever you need.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I mean, that's the reason why we don't care is because like we know why you voted for Trump. We know why you didn't vote. And like, we know why you stay at home. And like, I just kind of wanted to share something where, like you said, like you tried so hard to try and get people out and they just don't. And so when I was living in Cleveland and I had just joined my first band, we were starting to write songs and we were about to have our first show. And I had a best friend who, his best friend had just committed suicide and it like hurt him really, really bad. So he started using drugs and, but like we, and we started drifting apart and I noticed it, but I was, at least I was able to like get him involved in the music. And I was like, hey, like make sure that you're there, like when we're playing and stuff like that. And then I tried to get him out to our first show and he didn't show up to our first show. And I was really upset. I was upset with him. I kind of let him know. I was like, hey man, like you really should have been there. Like it was awesome. Like we all have fun. And like you're my best friend. Like you should have been there. Like I was disappointed. Like I wrote a song just for you. And I did. Like I wrote a song for him and it was for his friend that had it was my friend too. We had both lost this person. And then, 2 weeks after the show, he ended up committing suicide. And, so to you people who are sitting inside your houses and for 18 hours a day, doing whatever it is that you're doing, it's not healthy. And whenever we go through loss like that, everybody always thinks the same thing. Like, what could I have done to make that not happen? Like, should I have called? Should I have picked up the phone an extra time that I didn't? Should I have been there? Should I have known the signs? Should I have, all of these things. And number one thing, like, there is nothing you could have done. Those people, when at that point, they're going to shun you out. They're going to push you out. And, and for me, it was like, man, if only he had gone to that show, if only he had gone to our first show and seen what we were creating and how, and what we were trying to accomplish and everything that we were trying to do, he may have still been alive. But he didn't. He didn't go. He decided to stay home and, do heroin, which is exactly what he did. But like, that's not the kind of life I want my friends. That's not the kind of life I want any human being to feel. I mean, I love what we're doing with technology.
Feel compelled to do. Yeah. Like that's terrible. Yeah. I'm very sorry they experienced that.
Yeah. And it's like, I love, and the great thing is like, I love technology for the fact that, I have a grandmother in Belarus that we can FaceTime, I have cousins still across the world that I can FaceTime with. And, we can see each other. We don't have to just call on the phone, but we can call each other. We can communicate in ways that we've never been able to before. But when we're using these technologies to isolate ourselves from the world, it's one thing if you're isolating yourself and like studying and like you're really like focusing, or like if you're an artist or an engineer and you're like using this time to crunch numbers and to collect information, to gather data, to write your next big book, that's one thing. But when you're isolating yourself because you feel like the world has nothing to offer you, that's not good. Like we can do better. And it's the scarcity mindset. It's that like, I can't afford to go out, I can't afford to live this lifestyle. And now I remembered what I wanted to say earlier when I lost my train of thought. The McDonald's, the restaurants, the bars, all of these things that we consider to be entertainment nowadays, the rich are trying to sell us their lifestyle. That is not us. We are not that. I like going out and walking, and that's like, for me, just to be outside going for a walk with my friends, it feels good. And people are like, what are you walking? Like, yeah, I'm freaking walking. Like, is that really that you're gonna?
I can't believe at a certain point, what are you, gay, taking a walk? Like, where the hell did that come from? You know what I mean? Like, it's just, there's always these knee jerks for like just basic healthy things, and that's what I'm scared about. Is it's getting to this point where it's like, what the hell? How is this like a bad behavior to eat an apple and take a walk? Like, what?
Here's the thing. Like, we are, like what you guys said with advertisement, like we are being fueled. Like even with TV shows, the OC or Crazy Rich Asians, whatever it is. I'm not against TV shows. I'm just saying, you're trying to sell me a lifestyle where I feel like I have to go to a restaurant to feel like a good person. And I've worked the restaurant business. If you don't have money to tip, you don't have money to go out. And I'm not trying to belittle you. I'm not trying to say that like you don't deserve to go out, but I'm just trying to say that these people are trying to sell you a lifestyle that's not meant for us. And we don't even want it. That's why I'd rather create a place where we can put a whole bunch of video game consoles in, so parents can spend like $10 a week for their kids, or $20 a week for their kids to go out and have fun with their friends at a place, instead of spending $300 on an Xbox, $80 on a really fast internet provider, $60 a week on a new video game. Like, no, that is, and then the only thing your kids are doing when they're home is playing video games. No, get their asses out of their home and take them to a place to play the video game. And then when they come back home, they can learn what it's like to be bored and depressed, which is not a bad thing. Like depression, it's not necessarily a bad thing, and neither is boredom. Because when I got bored and depressed, I started making music. I started reading books. I started reading science. Yeah. I started getting into the Tao and spirituality. I started writing music. I started coming up with a small idea. I started getting involved with the Yang Gang. I started looking into what's going on in the world. And that's the transformative part about, like, being bored is okay. When you're bored, you think of creative ways to not be bored. But when look at all this fake ass entertainment. If go out to eat and it'll make you feel better. Like, go to a TGI Fridays with your friends and it'll be so much fun. Go get drunk, buy some beer. No, that is the wrong way to think about it. When you're bored, make your own fun.
Yeah, you need a balance. I mean, yeah, I agree. Like when I was there is a difference between being bored and lonely, because there've been times like that with a bunch of people and I was lonely. I was like, I don't care for these people at all. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I'd rather stay like at home. And you're right. Like, I have, like, my thing is I love to like create stories of like movies and stuff and like characters. And that's like my happy place. It's like, just like to be by myself and listen to music. Music is a really good motivation for me to think about stories and stuff like that. Draw, like I mean, it's, yeah, you're right. But the balance of like going out and finding a place where like you belong, at least you can like see other people that like what you like, your interests, like, is super important as well. Yeah. You have so many great
like
ideas.
The biggest takeaway is like, don't buy into the lifestyles of the rich and famous. Like, don't do it, because that's what leads you to the real, like, that's the depression that kills. When you think that's the reason we are in a scarcity mindset is because we believe that everyone needs to be in a $1 million mansion with, like, you know, a whole bunch of friends, and you can have your big parties and do all this stuff. And that's when, like, everybody tells me, like, we can't afford a Tesla. Yes, you can. If you can afford a $500 a month payment and $2,500 down, which, by the way, is any vehicle pretty much right now that you can buy. It doesn't even have to be, like, then you can afford it. And, like, when I explain it to people like that, they're like, oh my God, I can afford a Tesla. And I'm like, yes, you can. See, like, if you didn't spend your money on, you know, going out to restaurants and booze and anything else that, like, we are sold and overprescribed, again, like, it's like, go to McDonald's, so you'll have fun. Or, oh, did you save up enough money and go to this place where we want you to give us your money? No, don't do that. Like, stop just giving people. We're not just consumers. We're human beings. But and like, that's why, like, if you just, like, saved up all the money from all the things that make us stressed out, that we do, so we can alleviate that stress, you can buy a solar roof. You can buy a Tesla. You can stop spending money on energy. We can all individually, like, start doing the things that'll, turn climate change around. It'll turn disparity around. We will have better race relations because we wouldn't be blaming things on other people. We have better, relations with immigrants. We'd have better relationships with generations. There wouldn't be any kind of generation gap because we're all focused on what we want to do, and we're all cheering each other on. And we're also not, like, saying, like, oh, you spend your money on this and not this, and, like, oh, you can't even afford to go out. How can you show your kids a good time if you can't even take them out every now and again? It's like, I don't know. What if you just take your kids out into your backyard and pitch a tent and pretend like you're on a camping trip? That sounds like a lot of fun to a kid, like to a 8-year-old kid that doesn't know any better. Or take him to a park, or go on a really long walk with him and just, like, or her, and just show them, like, look at these stories, and, like, just teach them about your community. That there's all of these great things that, like, there's not a lot that you need to do to engage children. So, you don't have to take them to an amusement park. We don't need thrill rides. We don't need like all of these things that people tell us we need. It's just as fun. Like, my nephew has this, like, little toy box it's a toy box that he puts all his toys in. So I had him sit in that box, and then I picked up the toy box with him inside of it, and I had him pretend like he's an airplane, and I, just, like, ran him around the house like normal. I think he had way more fun doing that than being on a roller coaster where he's pissing himself because of, like, the thrill. Like, right now we're selling like death as a
I hate roller coasters.
it's like
no, thank you.
Nope. And it's fine. Like, I'm not against roller coasters or amusement parks either. I think that, like, there's a time and a place for
Some
all
people
of that.
love it, but, like, it's a good point. It's like you have to go extreme. Like, you don't have to be extreme all the time. Like, I love being extreme too. Like, roller coasters just aren't my way of being extreme. But yeah, like, you're totally right. Damn, I have to go, gentlemen. Damn. I know, right?
Yeah, I gotta go too. I'm actually once again, like, half hour late.
I know, but I'm, like, about to be late. Okay, can you guys talk? It is. Can you guys talk, like, on Sunday, like, or is that?
I think it should be good on Sunday.
So Sundays, if we can do, like, around noon, that would be perfect. Because, like, for me, like, Sundays, the earlier the better, because Sundays are, like, since I'm doing all of this stuff, Sundays are band days, and we have to make sure that we cram all of that in. But if I'm not here later, like, whatever. I talk too much anyway.
I'm free all Sunday, so yeah, noon works fine. How about you, Mark? Noon okay?
I think so. We'll see.
Okay.
How Saturday night goes.
Yeah.
But the point, I think a really good conversation starter too. for like our next calls would be, I mean, how a lot of the stuff that we're talking about here can be ripped right from The War on Normal People by Andrew Yang. So, loneliness is something that he touches on, and now it's one of the most severe points right now in like American history. So, loneliness is a great conversational piece.
All right, let's do it. I'm writing it down.
All right.
All right, guys. Oh yeah, that book.
You got to make sure to see this book.
Yes.
This is it.
Plug it.
Get it. It's really good. Or just listen to it. It's also, I mean, he's got a beautiful reading voice is what I learned.
It's very calming. I mean, like I listened to it, I listened to it for like 6 hours and a half or something like that. I was like so into it. I loved it. Oh my God. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for watching. All the links are down below if you guys want to see these guys. Oh, Marc, do you have a PayPal that you want to like chill, or is it I can just put your Twitter, like whatever works for you?
Yeah, just link my do you have my yeah, I think I follow you on my personal Twitter.
Yes,
Marc
I got
yeah.
Cool. Okay, that's it, y'all.
All right.
Fun. Thanks. Have a good weekend.
Bye.